Hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to talk about the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus happening this spring of 2024, with the exact conjunction happening in April. This is extremely powerful and influential energy and will set a tone for us on a global scale, I believe, as well as within our individual worlds. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about the history of Uranus and Jupiter coming together in the sign of Taurus. We're going to talk about some dates that are significant during this period of time. And we're going to talk about the house that Taurus will represent for the various signs. For instance, if your Aries, Taurus is your second house. This is based on Aries rising. So if you don't know your rising sign, you're going to want to check one of those free birth calculators and obtain that information, because the house will represent the environment, the landscape, the topography, which with the planets are walking through. So while there'll be the theme of Taurus, if it's the second house, it'll feel different than it's the 10th house. Well, maybe not that much. The 10th house is a career house. But if it's the fourth house, it could be very different, as that represents the house of home. So let me just sort of jump in here and talk about the last time that we, as a collective, the people that are walking the earth right now, would have experienced a Jupiter and Uranus conjunction. It would have been about 14 years ago, between December of 2010 and January 2011. This was in the sign of Pisces. They were exact between December 27th and January 1st, 2011. This is interesting because for me, Pisces rules my 12th house. The 12th house can rule loss. My father passed away at the end of January 2011, unexpectedly from a heart attack. So this is very powerful because his passing shifted my belief system about myself, and Jupiter rules our belief system. So what we're looking at now is Jupiter and Uranus coming together in the sign of Taurus. They've only done this, per my research, 3 times since 1181, the year 1181 and 2023. They came together, as I said, 1181, then in 1858 and 1941. And one of the interesting things about the Taurus energy is that it rules history. So I wanted to look back on what happened during this period of time. So in the year 1811, we see an order of knights known as the Knights Templars. They were a group of knights who protected and guarded those making pilgrimages to Jerusalem. And they became an integral part of the financial dynamic back in those days. They were considered the inventors and I don't know quite what word I'm looking for, but they literally were the financiers, the bankers, the system of order for money back in the day of the Knights Templars. So much so that after a couple hundred years of this, the King of France just got really kind of annoyed with the power that they had. And then there was a huge coup that was perpetrated upon the Templars, and in an attempt to exterminate the order, where they then went underground. So this is important because Taurus rules finance. Jupiter rules the expansion of wealth. It also rules spirituality and religion. So we really see this. And at the time in 1181, or through the rule of the Knights Templars, they ruled about 200 years. They had their heyday. They did a lot of foreign travel. They created intricate systems, and they interacted very much with the idea of religion and spirituality, but in many ways, it was a modern version for the times. So they were guarding those that were worshiping, and they were honoring the individual's religious dynamic, is the way I want to put it. While they were focused on Jerusalem, it still feels like there's a bigger picture here for me. We see in the year 1858, when Jupiter comes together with Uranus in the sign of Taurus, we see President Abraham Lincoln. At the time, he was I believe, a senator, and he gave his first speech to the House. He gave his first speech, known as a House Divided, to the state capital in Illinois. And he went on to face off with Stephen Douglas, debating the Constitution and the right of slavery. So this would have been extremely innovative. It would have broken down old structures that had been creating wealth for the slave owners of the time. And by 1861, in April, we see the United States go into a civil war. And what does Uranus rule? Rebellion, liberation from slavery. So this is very powerful. And this is about the land, meaning Jupiter and Uranus is in Taurus. And what did the slaves do? They worked the owner's land and created wealth for the owners while they got nothing for themselves. So this is where we start to see this complete shift in the structure of how we have been operating for hundreds of years. By 1941, we see Japan's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor, which then brought the United States into World War II. What does Uranus rule? The unexpected. It is an attack, rebellion, and aviation. They did it from the air. Uranus rules aviation, helicopters, the creation of aerodynamic structures. So I think this is so interesting because after the attack, America joined World War II. And that's the history, just briefly, of Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. So here we're gonna experience this again. And the thing I think is so interesting is that as the two planets are coming together, I don't know, how much you guys are on social media. I'm only really on TikTok as far as entertainment goes, and then I'm here on YouTube. But I have been seeing posts about boycotting Kellogg's. I hope that, I don't get censored for this video, but this to me is a Uranian dynamic where we are rebelling against the imbalance of the wealthy. Apparently the head of Kellogg's made an off-the-cuff comment about inflation, saying, well, if you're broke, eat cereal for dinner. Don't quote me, I'm paraphrasing, and it has created an uproar. And so here we see people, demonstrating their civil rights by boycotting a product in order to allow that big organization to know the power of the people, which is very Uranian. So here we're already seeing this starting, and this is kind of how I've felt we would experience Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus, where we'd see more civility, more using modern day concepts that support the cosmic collective as we rebel against the old structures that Pluto's been breaking down in Capricorn for quite some time. So let me go through some quick little dynamics. Let's talk about the landscape of Taurus very quickly. Taurus is the house of I have, of possessions. So wherever Taurus falls in your chart, there's going to be this underbelly. So if Taurus is your third house, it's the I have with a Gemini energy on it. But it rules the five senses. So it rules speaking, seeing, hearing, tasting. It rules the voice. It rules food and wine and things we enjoy, pleasures. It rules the voice and song. It rules family history and our self-confidence as a result of it, our skills, our ability to use our hands and make crafts. Is a very artistic sign. Taurus wants to build on the earth, wants to see what it builds, like Capricorn, so that it can feel a sense of safety and security. It is also known as the house of insecurity because it can really do a flip-flop. It's also on an axis across from Scorpio. And Scorpio is really more about other people's money and the commingling of money, whereas Taurus is about the money you make with your own skills, with your own talents and your own gifts. And by nature, it is a house of money and possessions. And it also has this Venusian dynamic. So some of those pleasures could be, I enjoy makeup, or I enjoy jewelry, or I enjoy making things beautiful. And it's a house that can indicate talents that will then transform into a career. It is a steady, determined, in many ways, a patient energy. It's funny, it rules the voice, and yet Taurus is known as the quiet one, because Taurus doesn't waste words, meaning it doesn't speak unless it has something to say. Unless you're Teri, then you talk your face off. It is very sensual. It can be possessive and stubborn. Taurus likes to have a series of experiences to build trust, and that trust will manifest in an enduring loyalty to those that you love. It can be very traditional and sometimes stoic in that tradition. Again, it can be a little materialistic on the more challenged side, because if it for some reason feels there's not enough, then it will want to stockpile a little bit, put money in the bank, make sure there's plenty of food in the refrigerator, that kind of thing. So this is the landscape of where the planets are chatting. Now Jupiter has come in to this house and said, let's expand all of this. Let's expand, let's make money, let's implement our skills, let's talk about it, let's write papers about it, let's teach people about our skills. Jupiter is by nature the house of higher education, higher court systems, religion, foreign travel, foreign places, foreign people, foreign things. And when I say foreign things, I mean, when we're used to something, let's say you grew up in the country, right? And you're used to seeing lots of grass and trees everywhere. And then you go to New York City, it's like a whole foreign country full of cement, buildings. So I don't want to make it just traveling to what you consider a foreign country. It's very much things that are out of your wheelhouse. I also think that naturally Jupiter rules a transformation of beliefs, because when we experience the physical death in the house of Scorpio, it takes us into the Sagittarius energy, which Jupiter rules. So sometimes when something happens unexpectedly that creates a divine disruption, it propels us into an area, and we learn more about ourselves from a higher perspective. That's the way I want to put it. Some jobs that would be Jupiterian, because again, we're on the landscape of Taurus. There's going to be a skill set applied here in some ways. So we can look at jobs that involve the higher court system. You could be a judge. You could work within the higher court system. You could be an educator, be into academics, spiritual teacher, guru, philosopher. You could be a philanthropic energy in your life, or even a philanthropist, and do charity work. We see healers, advocates, counselors, in some ways therapists here, psychiatrists here. We see financiers, we see bankers, we see money management. We see this in the house of Scorpio as well, but then we take that into the expansive wealth that Jupiter offers. It's a very entrepreneurial energy. So it's about using your skills for your own business endeavors. It involves publishing, marketing, influencing. Influencers are big these days. Interesting enough, and this I found in my research because I hadn't thought about it. Jupiter governs the color yellow, and a yellow-orangey hue. And it rules yellow goods. And those yellow goods are these big construction vehicles like excavators and cranes and bulldozers. And I just thought that was so funny, because it literally moves the earth and builds on it. And we're in the sign of Taurus right now. So this could very much rule. You could start a construction business or a developer and expand your if you're in real estate, very much could happen there. Let's talk a little bit about what Uranus jobs are, because the reason I bring this up with jobs is because, again, we're in the second house of skills, of making money through my perception, my perspective, my voice. So Jupiter also governs writing and publishing. And I know I mentioned publishing, but I didn't accentuate the writing part, because we normally associate that with Gemini, but Gemini is the natural complementary opposite of Jupiter, meaning Sagittarius on the zodiac wheel. So when we look at Uranus, we're looking at technology, computers, we're looking at astrology, we're looking at jobs that would help humanity move the story forward, the cosmic consciousness, the collective at large. We're looking at, in many ways, a military sign, a military energy, rebels, libertarians, people who, protest and fight for their right, to be seen and heard. We also see here, in that vein of the military, people who could make nuclear weapons, explosives, people who could disarm bombs or create bombs, military research in this direction. We see aviation, aerodynamics, and engineering in the way of future technologies. It's very much, I was thinking it rules lightning. So you could be in weather sciences, you could be a weatherman, that would be very Uranian. We see things that also involve telecommunications and the media, meaning this is another sort of Gemini energy, but on a bigger scale. And we see railways here. We see where we travel in a way that feels speedy to me. That's the way I want to put it. So, because when I thought of railways, I didn't just think of trains. I thought of the railways that are elevated, that people travel on as well. So here we have all this energy of individuality, of expression of my skills. Now we're seeing these two planets come together, and they're offering us, the way that I want to put it is that, when you're a scientist or an inventor, you're in the lab and you're trying something, and it doesn't work. And then one day out of nowhere, kaboom, it works. Or you have a breakthrough of some kind. Jupiter and Uranus are offering an epiphany, a breakthrough. It could be a material breakthrough where you've been efforting in a certain area and it has felt as if it was a little stagnant or it wasn't moving quick enough. And then next thing you know, it feels like overnight something goes viral. I think about the girl that was crocheting the beanies during the wintertime, and she crocheted one with the number 87 on it, and somehow it got to Taylor Swift, and overnight people were ordering these beanies from her, and her business blew up. That would be very Uranian, very Taurian, using my skills, my fingers, my hands to create crocheting. And then the wealth, Jupiter. So when you're aware of this, as you were sitting here, today is March 8th, 2024. And I'm posting this, probably going to upload it today because I want to be in before the Mercury retrograde, because the Mercury retrograde is going to be from the 1st of April all the way to the 25th, which is the exact second conjunction. There's two exact conjunctions with Jupiter and Uranus. So I feel like being aware of this now allows me to put my intentions out, to put my connection to the angelic realm, to make sure it's strong. Jupiter rules that connection. So no matter the landscape that we walk through, when we are aligned to source energy, we are more powerful than millions who are not. So we can expand and feel wealth. And when I say wealth, I look at it as feeling a sense of flow, a sense of security, a sense of knowing that there's enough momentum to keep me feeling like I'm thriving in the world. And that's what this conjunction has to offer. It could get a little sketchy because Venus is going to enter her domicile as this conjunction starts to take place. And while she will not be exact, in the exact conjunction, she will be heading that direction as it takes place. And Venus rules money. Venus rules everything we talked about with Taurus and even Libra things. So let me what I'm going to do too is I'm going to pull up the chart and I'm going to pull up a schedule of dates. But before I do that, I want to just quickly run through the houses for you. Just by rising sign, so that you can go and you can look at, again, the house number. Okay, so when I say it's number 12, that's one layer. And then the Taurus is another layer. And then we add the Jupiter and Uranus on top of it. And that's how we tell a story. So for Aries, Taurus is the natural second house. So it's going to be like very natural Taurian energy. When we look at Taurus, we're talking about this is your first house. So this is the house of yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you look out into the world, the unexpected embracing of your unique expression and the epiphanies that could potentially happen, and taking a risk to express yourself authentically pays off. Gemini, Taurus is your 12th house. Epiphanies are being offered to reconcile the past, to step out of a space of invisibility and to feel your expansiveness. And I really think this has to do a lot with what's going on in your 10th house of career. And as this epiphany presents itself, I think there'll be a strong shift in your career for the benefit. For my Cancers, this is in your 11th house, which is Uranus's natural house. So we're looking at an Aquarian energy here. It's offering you new connections, new networks, new opportunities on social media, as well as feeling a sense of community and home and embracing in that energy. It's a house of hopes and dreams. For you, Leo, for you, Leo rising, Taurus is your 10th house. Now, this 10th house is naturally a public eye. Everybody sees what's going on in the 10th house. This is where your status changes. You could go from married to having a child. You could go from single to getting married. You could go from having a low-level job to a promotion or owning your own business. Leo, your opportunity as Pluto is opposing your first house is to really allow yourself that self-expression. And Uranus is very much about my uniqueness. So this is going to be up, and this is a dynamic that's moving into the future with us. It's a shift. It's like almost a paradigm shift. It may not happen on the exact day, but you'll feel it as it ramps up and it expands. Virgo, this is your 9th house. Taurus is giving you an opportunity to explore yourself, both physically, mentally, emotionally, expansion in the way that you think, the permissions you give yourself to enter higher realms of thought, philosophy, education, even travel, literally travel. Libra, this is your 8th house of other people's money, of sex, of death, of taxes. And in some respects, this is about new ideas about money, new ideas that will take you outside of your comfort zone and in many ways make you feel very intentional and as if you're driving the bus of your own life. I think this is powerful because there's a lot of Aries energy going on right now that is in your 7th house, that is really bringing up how you interact as an individual in your partnerships. And this conjunction will allow you the opportunity to potentially create clients and to make your own income through clients and other people's money, but not somebody you depend on, meaning like a partner. Okay, Scorpio, this is your 7th house of relationships. And this is all going to start with the relationship you have with yourself. This dynamic of Jupiter and Uranus. And if you're single, you could very well out of nowhere meet somebody and suddenly sail off into the sunset. And it would feel as if it happened like that. The one little thing that happens here with Scorpio, with Taurus being your 7th house, is there is a requirement for something to evolve. It needs to grow and it needs to expand, because if it's stagnant, it's going to transform into something that feels like a potential loss before something grows again. Sagittarius, Taurus is your 6th house. This could be a complete change in your everyday life. It could be a complete change in your health routines. You could suddenly decide, I don't want to drink anymore. It depresses me. I'd prefer to, drink tea in the morning, give up coffee. This could very much be a change in your job, in choosing something that's more aligned to the truth of who you are. And it could be also, interestingly enough for me, if you've wanted to pursue a job in the culinary arts or any in the arts that facilitate the 5 senses, you could see great expansion here. If you wanted to venture into tourism or into, a travel blog or something like that, you could see great expansion here. Part of it's going to have to get to be brave. Capricorn, Taurus is your fifth house of creativity, love, playfulness, and childlike behavior. There could be an oops baby if you're not careful, if you're the childbearing years. You could conceive a child through technology, through higher education and technology. When I say higher education, it would be like learning more about processes that you would not be endeavoring if you were not otherwise wanting to have a child or conceive. This fifth house is also about your self-expression and courage of the heart. So you may find yourself kind of reconciling a family history that then turns into an art project or a creative endeavor or something that affords you more pleasure and more fun. For my Aquariuses, this is your fourth house of home. This could be a reconciliation of some kind, an epiphany that how you were brought up either has, empowered you and brought you more expansion, or in many ways, it could have even compelled you from a dark place to a lighter place, or to something where the challenges in your childhood now have become the education that allowed you to embark on your own path, to break your own way, to create your own traditions, your own sense of comfort and security. Pisces, this is in your third house of ideas, the I think house, conversations. You could have new friends coming up. You could find yourself having conversations about things that in the past you might have felt timid about, you might have felt a little invisible about. It feels a bit exhilarating, like you could potentially start to work with new people, or to potentially even work with your siblings. Taurus rules our family history. And again, using your skills, your talents, your creativity, your whimsy to birth something new. And when I say birth it, I really want to emphasize that this is a process. First, the idea comes, then the inspired action, and then the manifestation. So now I want to bring up, I'm going to share, I got a screen I want to share with you. Here is some dates that I think is very powerful to pay attention to, because on the day of the lunar eclipse at the end of March, this is on the Super Galactic Center, and quick plug, I've done a video on this, so you might want to check that out. Jupiter and Uranus will be only 4 degrees apart, with Jupiter heading towards Uranus. And this is very powerful because the energy is growing in strength. And this is an eclipse which brings in fated events. And this particular eclipse will illuminate something that has to do with the relationship you have with yourself. It can also, Libra rules justice and fairness. Jupiter rules higher courts. Uranus rules liberation. It could bring the end of a cycle of something to do with a legal matter, or even legal, if you're, education wise, if you're in higher education, you could start to feel the culmination of something. Then we see on the 8th, the solar eclipse in Aries is at the same time. Jupiter and Uranus are only 3 degrees apart. Now, I'm not saying that Jupiter and Uranus are making aspects to the eclipse. I'm saying that these are happening simultaneously. So this is very powerful, because the solar eclipse is a new moon eclipse in the sign of self, of bravery, of my drive and my ambition to assert myself. So this is very powerful. By the 17th of April, we see the first exact conjunction between the two planets at 21 degrees, which is that Sagittarian degree, the Jupiter degree. And then the second exact conjunction takes place on the 25th of April at the Capricorn degree, which makes me feel as if I'm starting to put mental and emotional and spiritual structures into place that support the expansion that I'm looking for moving forward in the year. Let me stop sharing this, and then let me share my the chart. Now, this is right now, it is March 8th, 2024, and we can see that the planets are just 7 degrees apart here, okay? And this, what I want to do now is go beyond the exact conjunction and take us into the week after, which is, we'll start with the 28th of of April, because I bring this up because we're starting to see Venus come into the picture. She's in her domicile. Mercury has joined the party over here. And while these two planets, what year is this? 1858. Excuse me, let me fix this. Hold on a second. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh my goodness. Oh, cripitis. Hold on a second. Excuse me, everybody. That's kind of funny. I was looking up the charts of when I did the history. Let me go to the end of April. All right, that's more like it. Okay, this is what I was expecting to see. Excuse me. All right, so now Jupiter's separating from Uranus, and it by the end of May will move into the sign of Gemini. So this to me is where now the conversations have started or stopped, and now Jupiter is starting the thinking, the speaking, the writing, the implementing of the ideas. At the same time, we have Venus entering her domicile. And I think this is very powerful because as she moves into May, the end of May, let me go to May 25th, we see that Jupiter at any moment, it's now at 29 degrees, 59 minutes, is going to move into Gemini. And Venus has been having a conversation, as has Mercury's joining the party, about how we're going to implement our skills, how we're going to expand on our skills. So while Venus was in the last degrees of Taurus in the second half of May is going to be where you start to really get this idea of some sort of, I want to say it almost feels like as if something is illuminating me in a certain direction. There is a very strong energy between Neptune and Jupiter right here. Neptune is hanging out at the very final degrees of Pisces. I believe there's one more retrograde before it enters Aries, but here there may be something that comes through dream time or through some sort of meditation potentially, definitely an inspired idea of some kind and a willingness to implement. And Pluto is supporting this as it is having a great conversation with both of these planets. So let me stop sharing right now. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that the planet of money, Venus, the planet of thinking, Mercury, while they will not be involved in the exact dates of the exact conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus, they follow suit in such a way that brings an opportunity to see the money coming into the material, to see the ideas and the teammates or the workmates, or even my everyday activities start to shift a bit that reflect what I've been intending and working towards and building. So that's, I mean, I think it's just the most incredible period of time. You know, again, these conjunctions, if you think about it, 1181 was, I don't even 900 years ago. So this is pretty powerful energy to only have experienced this conjunction 3 times. This will be the 4th time. So this is a real opportunity for us. And I think as we stretch for the stars and reach for our dreams and desires and be aware that our talk and our thought manifests. So even if we wobble in self-doubt, just continuing to soldier on a bit, to be a little militant and rebellious about continuing to believe in things that haven't manifested yet will be so powerful in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. All right, everybody, that's it for me. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. If you'd like to book a reading with me, either an intuitive reading or an astrology reading, I am available. My information is below in the description, and I look forward to hearing from you. And I hope you have a lovely, lovely Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Intention and awareness creates a lot of yummy, wonderful things in our life, aka expansion and the unexpected wealth that we're all craving. All right, everybody, take care. Peace out.